/confession I sabotaged my sister's wedding after security humiliated us. /confession I sabotaged my sister's wedding after security humiliated us. The security guard's meaty hand was still gripping my arm when I heard my sister's voice cut through the reception hall like a blade. Get them out. Now. I turned to stare at Rebecca, standing 30 feet away in her $8,000 wedding dress, her face cold as marble. Around us, 200 guests had gone dead silent, their champagne glasses frozen halfway to their lips as they watched the spectacle unfold. Becca, what the hell? I tried to twist free from the guard's grip, but his fingers only tightened. It's me. It's your sister. She didn't even blink. Just stood there next to her new husband, looking at me like I was some stranger who'd crashed her perfect day. The guard, built like a linebacker and wearing an earpiece like this was the White House, started dragging me toward the exit. Ma'am, you and your guests need to leave immediately, he said in that flat, professional tone that made my skin crawl. You're inappropriately dressed and causing a disruption. Inappropriately dressed? I looked down at my navy blue cocktail dress, the one I'd spent 3 weeks hunting for because Rebecca's invitation specified cocktail attire in gold script. The one that cost me a week's worth of tips from the diner. Next to me, my boyfriend Jake was getting the same treatment from another guard, his face flushed with embarrassment as he stumbled in the cheap dress shoes I'd bought him at Payless. This is insane, Jake muttered, adjusting his tie, the tie I'd taught him how to knot properly just that morning. We followed the dress code exactly. But I knew this wasn't really about our clothes. This was about Jake's secondhand suit versus the Armani tuxedos around us. This was about my clearance dress in a room full of designer gowns. This was about Rebecca's perfect wedding photos, and how her working-class sister and her mechanic boyfriend didn't fit the aesthetic she'd spent 2 years planning. The worst part? The family was just watching. Aunt Carol, who used to sneak me cookies when Mom wasn't looking. Cousin David, who taught me to ride a bike. Grandma Helen, who'd held my hair back when I had food poisoning at 12. They all just sat there with their uncomfortable expressions, probably relieved it wasn't them being dragged out like criminals. As we reached the ornate double doors, I caught sight of myself in one of the massive mirrors lining the ballroom. My carefully curled hair was already falling apart, my lipstick smudged from biting my lip to keep from crying. Behind my reflection, Rebecca's reception continued in all its golden glory, crystal chandeliers, towering flower arrangements that cost more than my rent, a band that probably charged more per song than I made in a month. The doors slammed behind us with a finality that echoed through my chest. We stood in the empty hotel corridor, the sounds of laughter and clinking glasses muffled now, distant and mocking. Jake's hand found mine, but I barely felt it. All I could think about was the look on Rebecca's face. Not apologetic. Not conflicted. Just cold. That's when I remembered the recording on my phone. The one from 3 weeks ago, when Rebecca thought I was in the bathroom but I was actually standing right outside her bedroom door. The one where she confessed everything about Marcus from her yoga class. The hotel elevator dinged softly as we descended to the lobby, each floor marking another layer of humiliation settling into my bones. Jake squeezed my hand, but I could see the hurt in his eyes, not just for himself, but for me. He'd warned me this might happen. Your sister's changed, he'd said last month when the wedding invitation arrived on thick cardstock that probably cost more than our dinner. Ever since she started dating that investment banker. I defended her then. Stupid me. The lobby was all marble and gold accents, the kind of place where even the doormen looked like they belonged in a magazine. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the city skyline glittering like a promise of everything I'd never have. Everything Rebecca now took for granted. We should go home, Jake said quietly, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. Forget this ever happened. But I couldn't forget. I kept seeing Rebecca's face, not even a flicker of remorse as she watched her own sister get thrown out like trash. The same sister who'd held her hair back when she was puking drunk after prom. Who'd lied to Mom about where Rebecca really was during those study sessions senior year. Who'd helped her move into her first apartment, her second apartment, her designer condo. My phone buzzed with a text. For a split second, hope flared in my chest. Maybe Rebecca had come to her senses. Maybe she was apologizing. Maybe. It was Mom. Heard what happened. Rebecca says you were causing problems. Just go home, honey. We'll talk later. Even Mom was taking her side without hearing mine. Of course she was. Rebecca was the success story, the daughter who'd graduated from Northwestern and landed a job at a prestigious marketing firm. I was the one who dropped out of community college to take care of Dad when he got sick, who never quite got back on track afterward. That's it, I whispered, my finger hovering over my phone's voice memo app. That's fucking it. Emma? Jake moved closer, recognizing the dangerous edge in my voice. What are you thinking? I scrolled through my recordings, old grocery lists, reminders about bill due dates, and there it was. 3 weeks, 2 days, 14 hours ago. The timestamp read 7:43 p.m., right when I'd gone to Rebecca's place to help her address wedding invitations. I'd needed to use her bathroom, but when I got to her bedroom hallway, I heard her on the phone. Not with David, her perfect groom-to-be. With someone named Marcus. I know the wedding's next month, but I can't stop thinking about you, Rebecca's voice had poured through the crack in her door. David's sweet, but he's so predictable. What we have is different. It's real. I should have confronted her then. Should have given her the chance to come clean, to call off the wedding, to not marry David while she was planning to keep seeing someone else. Instead, I'd stood there frozen, my phone automatically recording because I'd been in the middle of leaving myself a memo about picking up her invitations. Now, staring at that recording, I felt something cold and sharp crystallize in my chest. The hotel staff were casting subtle but pointed looks our way, Jake in his obvious Walmart suit, me in my discount dress, both of us clearly not belonging in their pristine lobby. Just like upstairs. Just like everywhere in Rebecca's new world. But I had something Rebecca didn't know about. Something that could turn her perfect wedding into a nightmare worse than anything she just put me through. The question was, did I have the guts to use it? I stared at my phone screen, the recording file glowing like a loaded weapon. My thumb traced over the play button as Jake shifted nervously beside me in the marble lobby. Emma, seriously, what's going on in your head right now? Before I could answer, the elevator chimed and a group of wedding guests spilled out, Rebecca's college friends, all perfectly coordinated in their designer dresses and practiced smiles. They spotted us immediately, their conversation faltering into uncomfortable whispers. Oh my god, is that Rebecca's sister? One of them hissed, not even trying to be subtle. I heard security had to physically remove them. So embarrassing for Rebecca, another one murmured. On her wedding day, no less. They click-clacked past us on their expensive heels, leaving a trail of perfume and judgment. One of them actually pulled out her phone, probably already posting about the drama to her Instagram story. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about the humiliation Rebecca had put me through. In about 30 minutes, these same people would be posting photos and videos all over social media. The story would spread through our extended family, Rebecca's friend groups, probably even her workplace social circles. And in every version, I'd be the trashy sister who caused a scene at the elegant wedding. The one who couldn't dress appropriately, who brought her rough around the edges boyfriend to a classy event. Rebecca would get sympathy while I became the family cautionary tale. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my cousin Sarah. Mom told everyone what happened. Yikes. Maybe you should have dressed better? Then another text from my Aunt Linda. Your sister worked so hard planning this wedding. Couldn't you have just behaved for one night? Are you fucking kidding me? I said out loud, loud enough that the hotel concierge glanced over with disapproval. They were all texting each other, building the narrative, deciding I was the villain before I'd even left the building. Jake read over my shoulder and his jaw tightened. They don't know what really happened. They don't care what really happened. My grip on the phone was so tight my knuckles had gone white. Rebecca's already spinning this. Poor successful Rebecca, dealing with her problematic little sister. Another elevator opened and more wedding guests emerged, this time David's family. His mother, a woman who'd barely acknowledged my existence during the engagement party, was holding court with a cluster of relatives. Such a shame, she was saying in that practiced sympathetic tone rich women perfected. Rebecca tries so hard with her family, but you can't change where people come from. She trailed off when she noticed me, her eyes doing a quick scan from my drugstore makeup to Jake's ill-fitting jacket. Then she actually smiled, not friendly, but satisfied. Like my presence here in the lobby, clearly ejected from the reception, confirmed everything she'd already decided about Rebecca's background. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. David's younger brother Tommy was with them, and he was live streaming on his phone, some social media story about the crazy wedding drama with me clearly visible in the background. Oh hell no, I muttered, starting toward them. Jake caught my arm. Don't. You'll just make it worse. But worse for who? In a few hours, there would be dozens of posts about Rebecca's trashy sister ruining her perfect wedding. The story would calcify into family legend, the time Emma couldn't handle Rebecca's success and had to be physically removed from the reception. Meanwhile, Rebecca would get to play the long-suffering bride who graciously handled a family crisis. Her secret about Marcus would stay buried while she built her perfect marriage on a foundation of lies. Endless. My thumb hovered over the recording again as David's family disappeared into the hotel restaurant, probably to gossip more freely over overpriced cocktails. In about 20 minutes, they'd all head back upstairs for the cake cutting and dancing. The sound system up there was state-of-the-art. I'd noticed it when we first arrived, before everything went to hell. Professional grade, with speakers positioned throughout the ballroom so every word would be crystal clear. Jake, I said quietly. How hard would it be to connect a phone to that sound system upstairs? Jake's eyes widened as he realized what I was suggesting. Emma, no. Absolutely not. Just theoretically, I pressed, though we both knew I was way past theoretical. You work with electronics all the time at the shop. Car stereos are not the same as, he stopped, running a hand through his hair. Christ, you're actually serious about this. Before I could answer, my phone rang. Rebecca's name flashed on the screen, and for a split second, hope flared in my chest again. Maybe she'd realized what she'd done. Maybe she was calling to apologize, to invite us back up, to fix this. Becca? Emma. Her voice was ice cold, all business. I need you to leave the hotel. Now. The hope died instantly. Are you serious right now? You've already caused enough of a scene. David's family is upset, the photographer had to delete shots with you in the background, and Mom is having anxiety attacks. Just go home and we'll figure this out later. Figure what out? How you had your own sister thrown out of your wedding? You knew the dress code. I followed the fucking dress code. My voice echoed through the lobby, earning more disapproving stares. I spent 3 weeks finding the right outfit, Rebecca. This was never about what I was wearing. Silence on the other end. Then, look, maybe we're just different people now. Different worlds. Different worlds. Like I was some stranger instead of the sister who'd shared a bedroom with her for 16 years. Who'd helped her cheat on her SATs by sitting next to her during the test. Who'd covered for her when she wrecked Mom's car senior year. Yeah, I said quietly. I guess we are. I hung up before she could respond, my hands shaking with rage. Different worlds. She'd made her choice crystal clear. What did she say? Jake asked, though my face probably told him everything. She wants us to disappear so her perfect night isn't ruined. I scrolled back to the recording, Rebecca's voice from 3 weeks ago taunting me through the phone speaker when I tested the volume. David's sweet, but he's so predictable. Jake caught the audio and his expression shifted. Jesus, Emma. Is that her confessing to cheating on David? Yeah. I glanced around the lobby, calculating. The service elevators are probably less monitored than the main ones. And during dinner service, the staff corridors would be busy enough that 2 people might slip through unnoticed. You're talking about sneaking back into a private event after being escorted out by security. That's probably illegal. He was right, but I was way past caring about probably illegal. Upstairs, Rebecca was playing the gracious bride while her guests shared stories about her trashy sister. David's family was probably still in the restaurant, crafting the narrative about how this whole drama proved Rebecca needed to distance herself from her problematic background. My phone buzzed with another text, this time from Rebecca's maid of honor. Asterisk girl, your sister is handling this so well. David's mom said she's impressed by how Rebecca stayed classy despite the family drama. Asterisk. Family drama. As if I'd caused some unhinged scene instead of being quietly ejected for not meeting their unspoken wealth requirements. The cake cutting isn't for another hour, I said, more to myself than to Jake. The band takes a break between dinner and dancing. There's going to be a gap where someone could access that sound system. Emma, please think about this. Once you do something like this, you can't take it back. Your relationship with Rebecca. What relationship? I laughed, but it came out bitter. She just told me we live in different worlds now. She chose David's family over her own sister. She's already decided I don't matter. Through the lobby windows, I could see guests arriving late, hurrying through the hotel entrance in their designer clothes and confident smiles. They had no idea what secrets were hiding behind Rebecca's perfect wedding facade. But they were about to find out. I was still staring at my phone when Jake grabbed my wrist, his grip urgent. Security, he hissed, nodding toward the lobby entrance. 2 guards in black suits were talking to the concierge, one of them pointing in our direction. The same linebacker who dragged me out was scanning the lobby with the focused intensity of a hunting dog. Shit. I grabbed Jake's hand and pulled him toward the hotel restaurant, trying to look casual as we slipped between clusters of well-dressed guests. Rebecca must have told them to make sure we actually left. We ducked behind a marble pillar just as the guards started walking our way. My heart was hammering so hard I was sure they'd hear it, but they passed us, heading for the main elevators. This is insane, Jake whispered. We're hiding from security like criminals. Because Rebecca turned us into criminals. I peeked around the pillar, watching the guards position themselves near the elevator bank. She's not just kicking us out, she's making sure we stay out. My phone buzzed again. Another text from cousin Sarah, *, Rebecca's handling this drama so gracefully. David's lucky to have someone who stays classy under pressure, *. Then one from my Uncle Mike, *, heard you caused problems at the wedding. Your sister deserves better on her special day, *. They're all texting each other, I said, showing Jake the messages. Look at this, I'm the villain in every single version. Rebecca's the victim. Jake read over my shoulder, his expression darkening. They weren't even there. They don't know what happened. It doesn't matter. Rebecca's already won. I scrolled through more messages, each one a knife twist. By tomorrow, the whole family will know the story. Crazy Emma couldn't handle her successful sister's happiness and had to be physically removed from the wedding. A group of Rebecca's sorority sisters walked past us toward the restaurant bar, their voices carrying just enough for us to catch fragments. So embarrassing for Rebecca. David's mother was mortified. Some people just can't handle other people's success. They settled at a high-top table, immediately pulling out their phones. Within seconds, I could see them typing furiously, probably updating their group chats with the latest drama. This is it, I said quietly. In 30 minutes, this story goes viral in our social circles. Rebecca becomes the sympathetic bride who had to deal with family drama, and I become the cautionary tale. Jake was watching the security guards, who were now checking the main floor systematically. We need to leave. Actually leave. Before they decide to call the police. But leaving meant accepting defeat. It meant letting Rebecca's narrative become the truth. It meant watching her build a marriage on lies while everyone praised her for handling her difficult sister so well. The service corridors, I said suddenly. Hotels this fancy have staff passages so the help doesn't interfere with guest sightlines. Emma. 1 recording, Jake. 30 seconds of audio. That's all it would take. And then what? You destroy her marriage, your family disowns you, and you probably get arrested for trespassing. What exactly do you win? He had a point, but every buzz of my phone brought another message painting me as the problem. Rebecca's college roommate. David's cousin. Even people I barely knew were getting updates about how I'd ruined the wedding. The security guards were getting closer, methodically checking behind every pillar and plant. In about 2 minutes, they'd reach our hiding spot. Kitchen entrance, I said, spotting the unmarked door where servers had been emerging with trays. Staff areas aren't monitored the same way. This is crazy. Maybe. But staying sane means letting Rebecca win completely. I looked at him, really looked at him. She didn't just humiliate me tonight. She humiliated you too. Because you're with me. His jaw tightened because he knew I was right. Those guards hadn't just grabbed me, they'd manhandled him like he was some kind of threat, all because his suit came from Walmart instead of Men's Warehouse. The security guards were 3 pillars away now. Decide, I whispered. Help me, or meet me at the car. Jake stared at me for what felt like an eternity, conflict written across his face. Then the security guards rounded the pillar next to ours, and he grabbed my hand. Kitchen, he whispered. Now. We slipped through the unmarked door just as one of the guards called out behind us. The kitchen was a symphony of controlled chaos, servers weaving between prep stations, chefs barking orders, the clatter of expensive plates being arranged for the reception upstairs. The air was thick with steam and the smell of whatever 5-course meal Rebecca had spent months selecting. Act like we belong, I muttered, trying to look purposeful as we navigated around a server carrying a tray of champagne flutes. Excuse me. A sharp voice cut through the kitchen noise. The sous chef, a woman with steel gray hair pulled back severely, was staring at us with obvious suspicion. This is a restricted area. My mind went blank, but Jake stepped forward smoothly. Catering emergency upstairs, he said, pulling out his phone. The bride's sister sent us to check on the sound system. Something about feedback during the speeches. The lie rolled off his tongue so naturally that even I almost believed it. The sous chef's expression softened slightly, apparently wedding emergencies were universal, even in 5-star kitchens. Service elevators in the back, she said, pointing toward a narrow corridor. But be quick. We're prepping for the cake service. We hurried toward the elevator, and I felt a flutter of something I couldn't name. Hope? Terror? Both? That was smooth, I said as we waited for the elevator. 3 years of talking my way past security at repo jobs, Jake replied grimly. Never thought I'd use those skills to help my girlfriend break into a wedding. The elevator arrived with a soft ding, and we stepped inside. As the doors closed, the reality of what we were about to do hit me like a physical weight. In about 2 minutes, we'd be back in the reception hall. The same hall where I'd been dragged out like garbage 30 minutes ago. There's probably a control booth, Jake said, studying the floor buttons. Professional sound systems need a central mixing board. Probably tucked away somewhere discreet. My phone buzzed again, more family members weighing in on my behavior tonight. Aunt Carol this time, asterisk Rebecca called me crying. Said you made a scene about her success. Jealousy isn't a good look, honey, asterisk. Jealousy. As if this was about Rebecca's money instead of her complete betrayal of everything we used to mean to each other. The elevator stopped at the reception level, and we could hear the muted sounds of dinner winding down through the corridor walls. Laughter, clinking glasses, the soft jazz Rebecca had insisted on for ambience. If we get caught, Jake started. We won't. But my voice shook as I said it. We stepped into a service hallway lined with numbered doors, storage, linens, electrical. At the far end, I could see a door marked A/V equipment authorized personnel only. Bingo, I whispered. But as we moved down the hallway, I heard voices approaching from the main corridor. Wedding guests, heading back from dinner. In a few minutes, the reception area would be crawling with people again. Emma. Jake caught my arm as I reached for the A/V room door handle. Last chance. We can still walk away from this. Through the walls, I could hear Rebecca's laugh, bright and musical, the same laugh that used to make me feel like we were conspirators against the world. Now it sounded like mockery. My phone lit up with another text, this one from David's sister, asterisk Rebecca's been so gracious about the family drama. David's parents are so impressed with how she handled everything, asterisk. I looked at Jake, then at the door handle under my hand. No, I said quietly. We really can't. The A/V room door was locked. Of course it was. I stared at the brushed metal handle like it had personally betrayed me, my heart sinking into my stomach. Through the walls, I could hear the reception coming back to life as guests returned from dinner, chairs scraping, conversations picking up, the band doing sound checks for dancing. Shit, Jake whispered, jiggling the handle uselessly. There's probably a keycard system. I pressed my ear to the door, listening for any sign of activity inside. Nothing. But that didn't help us if we couldn't get in. My phone buzzed again, another family member chiming in about my inappropriate behavior, and I wanted to scream. Wait. Jake was examining the door frame, running his fingers along the edges. This isn't a hotel door. It's just a basic commercial lock. He pulled out his wallet and extracted a thin piece of metal I'd never noticed before. Repo work teaches you all kinds of skills. Is that a lockpick? Credit card with a modified edge. Don't ask. He slid it between the door and frame, angling it carefully. This only works on cheap locks, so pray your sister didn't splurge on security for the... Click. The door swung open to reveal a small room packed with electronic equipment. Mixing boards, amplifiers, a control panel that looked like something from a recording studio. Through a small window, I could see directly into the reception hall, guests milling around their tables, Rebecca and David posing for more photos near the cake table. Jesus Christ, we actually did it, Jake breathed. But as we stepped inside, I heard footsteps in the service hallway behind us. Heavy, purposeful footsteps that made my stomach drop. Check all the restricted areas, a familiar voice said. The linebacker security guard. Hotel staff said 2 people matching their description were seen near the kitchens. Jake immediately started examining the soundboard, his fingers tracing cables and input jacks. I can probably patch your phone into this, he whispered, but it's going to take a few minutes to figure out the routing. The footsteps were getting closer. I could hear doors opening and closing as the guards systematically searched each room. We don't have a few minutes, I hissed. Through the window, Rebecca was laughing at something David's father had said, her hand resting on David's chest in that practiced pose she'd probably seen in wedding magazines. The perfect bride, handling her special day with such grace despite her difficult family. My phone screen showed the recording file, 3 weeks and 2 days old. Rebecca's voice confessing everything, asterisk David's sweet, but he's so predictable. What we have is different. It's real. Asterisk. Got it, Jake whispered, holding up a cable. This should connect your phone to the main system. But Emma, once we do this, every speaker in that room is going to broadcast whatever you play. There's no volume control from here, no way to stop it once it starts. The footsteps stopped right outside our door. This one's supposed to be locked, the second guard said. Check it anyway. The door handle rattled. Jake grabbed my hand, his eyes wide with panic. There was nowhere to hide in the tiny room, just equipment racks and the control board. If they opened that door, we were completely fucked. Hotel management, Jake called out in an authoritative voice. Dealing with technical issues for the event. A pause. Then, we need to see some identification. My heart was beating so loud I was sure they could hear it through the door. Jake looked at me desperately, still holding the cable that would connect my phone to the sound system. Through the window, Rebecca was moving toward the microphone at the head table. Probably about to give some gracious speech thanking everyone for coming, for celebrating her perfect love story. Sir, we're going to need you to open this door. Jake's hand was shaking as he held the cable near my phone. One connection and Rebecca's secret would blast through every speaker in the reception hall. Her confession about Marcus would destroy everything she built tonight. But first we had to not get arrested. The door handle turned. The door swung open and I held my breath, waiting for the guards to storm in. Instead, a hotel maintenance worker in coveralls peered around the frame, looking confused. Oh, sorry, he said to someone behind him. Thought I heard voices, but it's just the A/V crew. A/V crew. I nearly laughed with relief until I realized what that meant. There was an actual A/V crew, and they could show up any second. All clear in here, the maintenance guy called out, and I heard the guards move on to the next room. Jake was already connecting the cable to my phone, his hand steadier now. We have maybe 5 minutes before the real tech guys come back, he whispered. Through the window, I watched Rebecca take the microphone. Her voice filled the reception hall, clear and sweet. I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight to celebrate the beginning of David's and my life together. My thumb hovered over the recording as applause rippled through the crowd. All those smiling faces, David's parents beaming with pride, my own family members who'd been texting about what a problem I was. David, you make me want to be the best version of myself. The best version. I almost choked on the irony. The best version of Rebecca was apparently one who cheated on her fiancé and had her sister thrown out by security. Emma, Jake whispered urgently. Someone's coming down the hall. New footsteps, lighter this time. Through the crack in the door, I caught a glimpse of a woman in a hotel uniform carrying a radio. Control room, this is Linda. The bride's requesting immediate sound check for the special dedication. She wants to play a recording for her new husband. My blood turned to ice. Rebecca was about to play something for David? Some romantic message she'd prepared? The woman was heading straight for our door. Hide, Jake hissed, pulling me behind the equipment rack just as the real A/V tech walked in. We crouched in the narrow space between the wall and a massive amplifier, trying not to breathe as the tech moved around the control board. I could see Jake's phone cable still connected to the system, snaking across the floor where she might notice at any second. Testing, testing, Rebecca's voice came through both the window and the speakers around us as the tech adjusted levels. Can everyone hear me clearly? The crowd responded with enthusiastic cheers. Perfect audio quality. I have something very special I want to share with my new husband, Rebecca continued, and my heart started racing for a different reason. A recording I made just for him. She was about to play something romantic while I sat here with evidence of her cheating. The cosmic irony was almost too much. The A/V tech bent down to adjust a cable, and her hand brushed against Jake's connection. She frowned, following the wire with her eyes. That's not supposed to. Jake's phone buzzed with an incoming call, the vibration loud enough that the tech spun around, searching for the source. Through the window, Rebecca was fumbling with her own phone at the microphone. Just one moment while I get this set up. The A/V tech was looking directly at our hiding spot now, confusion turning to suspicion on her face. And that's when my phone, still connected to the sound system, started playing the recording. Not because I'd pressed play. Because Jake's incoming call had somehow triggered it. Rebecca's voice from 3 weeks ago suddenly filled the reception hall at maximum volume. I know the wedding's next month, but I can't stop thinking about you. The reaction was instantaneous. Gasps, confused murmurs, the scrape of chairs as 200 guests tried to process what they were hearing. David's sweet, but he's so predictable. What we have is different. It's real. Through the window, I watched Rebecca's face go wide as her own voice condemned her. The reception hall erupted into chaos as Rebecca's recorded voice continued pouring through the speakers. When I'm with Marcus, I feel alive in a way I never do with David. Through the A/V room window, I watched my sister's perfect wedding implode in real time. Guests were on their feet, some covering their mouths in shock, others already pulling out phones to record the disaster. David stood frozen at the head table, his face cycling through confusion, recognition, and devastation as the truth hit him. What the hell is this? The A/V tech spun around, finally spotting us crouched behind the equipment rack. Security. Jake grabbed my hand and yanked me toward the door, but it was too late. The woman was already screaming into her radio, and I could hear heavy footsteps thundering down the service hallway. Turn it off. Rebecca's voice, her real voice, live from the microphone, cracked with panic as she frantically tried to stop the recording. But she didn't know how the sound system worked, and her attempts only made feedback screech through the speakers. The recorded confession kept playing. Asterisk, I love David, but I'm not in love with him. You know? The wedding's just, it's what everyone expects. Asterisk. Jesus Christ, Emma, Jake panted as we burst into the hallway. We need to. Stop right there. The linebacker security guard rounded the corner at full speed, followed by 2 hotel managers and what looked like half the kitchen staff. We were trapped between them and the reception hall, where I could hear David's voice through the speakers now, shaky and broken. Rebecca, who is Marcus? My phone was still connected to the sound system, still broadcasting every damning word of my sister's confession. Part of me wanted to run back and disconnect it, to stop the carnage I'd unleashed. But a bigger part of me felt vindicated watching Rebecca's lies crumble in front of everyone who'd been praising her grace and class all evening. The bride wants them arrested for sabotage, one of the hotel managers said into his radio. Get the police here now. Police. The word hit me like cold water. This had gone way beyond family drama. I'd actually committed crimes tonight. Breaking and entering, trespassing, destruction of property. Maybe even something worse, depending on how expensive Rebecca's wedding was and what kind of lawyer David's family could afford. Through the reception hall doors, I could see complete pandemonium. Guests were streaming toward the exits, David's mother was screaming at someone, and Rebecca was sobbing into the microphone as she begged David to let her explain. The recording had finally ended, but the damage was catastrophic. Ma'am, you need to come with us, the security guard said, moving closer with zip tie restraints in his hands. Both of you. That's when the reception hall doors burst open and David himself stumbled into the hallway, still in his tuxedo but looking like he'd aged 10 years in the past 5 minutes. His eyes were wild, desperate, and when he saw me, something dangerous flickered across his face. You, he snarled, lunging toward me. You destroyed everything. My wedding, my marriage, my... Jake stepped between us as hotel security moved to restrain David, but the groom was beyond reason. She's been planning this. Jealous bitch couldn't stand seeing Rebecca happy. David, stop. Rebecca appeared behind him, mascara streaming down her cheeks, her $8,000 dress wrinkled from whatever chaos had erupted at the head table. Don't make this worse. Worse? David whirled on her. Worse? You've been cheating on me and your psycho sister just announced it to 300 people. How exactly does this get worse? The security guard was talking rapidly into his radio now. We need multiple units. The situation is escalating. My phone buzzed with incoming calls, family members who'd probably already seen videos of the disaster spreading across social media. The recording I'd made in a moment of rage was about to become viral entertainment, destroying not just Rebecca and David, but potentially our entire family's reputation. And there was no way to take any of it back. The police sirens were getting closer, their wail echoing through the hotel corridors as I stood frozen between security guards and my devastated sister. Through the reception hall doors, I could see guests streaming past the windows, some fleeing the chaos, others clustering in groups with their phones out, probably already uploading videos to every social media platform they could find. Emma. Rebecca's voice was barely a whisper, but it cut through everything else. How could you do this to me? The question hit me like a slap. Even now, even after everything, she was making herself the victim. How could I? You had me thrown out by security. You told everyone I was the problem. You are the problem. David's voice cracked as he gestured wildly at the chaos around us. Look what you've done. My parents, my grandparents, they flew in from 3 states for this wedding. Through the reception hall windows, I could see exactly what he meant. David's elderly grandmother was being helped to a chair by relatives, her face pale with shock. Wedding guests were arguing with each other, some defending Rebecca, others clearly disgusted by what they'd heard. The beautiful centerpieces Rebecca had obsessed over for months were knocked askew as people pushed past tables to leave. The police are 2 minutes out, the security guard said into his radio. Suspects are contained. Suspects. I was officially a suspect now. My legs felt weak as the reality crashed over me. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was criminal charges, court dates, probably jail time. All for 30 seconds of audio that I could never take back. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with calls and texts. I could see missed calls from mom, dad, at least 6 relatives, and numbers I didn't recognize. The story was already spreading beyond our family, beyond the wedding guests, into the wider world where strangers would judge and dissect every detail. Ma'am, the hotel manager approached me with obvious reluctance. The bride is requesting that we hold you until police arrive. She's claiming damages to her wedding that could exceed $50,000, Rebecca said, her voice steady now but her eyes still streaming tears. The venue, the catering, the band, the flowers, everything's ruined. Plus emotional distress. $50,000. I made that much in 2 years at the diner. The number was so impossibly large that I actually laughed, which made David's face twist with fresh rage. You think this is funny? You think destroying people's lives is entertaining? I think, I said, my voice stronger than I felt, that you should be thanking me. How long were you planning to stay married to someone who's in love with another man? The question hung in the air like a bomb. Rebecca flinched as if I'd hit her, and David's anger seemed to deflate into something more broken. That's not, I wasn't going to, Rebecca started, then stopped. Marcus was just. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. It meant enough that you told him you weren't in love with your fiancé, Jake said quietly. It was the first time he'd spoken since we'd been caught, and his voice was steady despite everything falling apart around us. Man deserves to know that before he signs legal papers. The police sirens were right outside now, and I could hear car doors slamming in the hotel parking lot. In about 60 seconds, officers would walk through those doors and arrest me for sabotaging my own sister's wedding. My life as I knew it was about to end, but at least David wouldn't spend the next 5 years married to someone who was planning to cheat on him. That had to count for something, right? The reception hall doors opened again, and this time it was Mom who emerged, her face a map of horror and disappointment that made my stomach clench. Emma Marie, she said in the voice she'd used when I was 7 and had broken her favorite vase. What have you done? The look on Mom's face was worse than anything the police could do to me. It was the same expression she'd worn when Dad had his heart attack, complete devastation mixed with a desperate need to fix something that couldn't be fixed. Mom, The whole family is in there, she said, gesturing toward the reception hall with a shaking hand. Your aunts, your cousins, Grandma Helen. They all heard that recording. They all watched Rebecca's marriage fall apart in real time. Through the reception hall windows, I could see our relatives clustered together like survivors of a natural disaster. Aunt Carol was crying into her hands while Uncle Mike paced back and forth, his face red with anger. Cousin Sarah was frantically typing on her phone, probably damage control, but more likely just spreading the news faster. Emma, they're asking if our whole family is like this, Mom continued, her voice breaking. David's mother wants to know what kind of people we are, what kind of home you girls came from that this could happen. The police were in the building now. I could hear their radios crackling as they made their way through the hotel corridors. Soon they'd be here to arrest me, and then what? Mugshots that would end up online, court appearances that the whole family would have to endure, legal bills that would bankrupt Mom and Dad. Mrs. Patterson? The hotel manager approached Mom with obvious deference. She might be from the wrong side of town, but she was still the mother of the bride. We're going to need you to make a statement about the damages. The sound equipment alone. I'll pay for it, Rebecca said suddenly, her voice hollow. The equipment, the venue, everything. Just, don't press charges. Everyone turned to stare at her. Rebecca stood there in her destroyed wedding dress, makeup streaked down her face, looking like a ghost of the perfect bride she'd been 3 hours ago. Rebecca, no, David said, but there was no fight left in his voice. She destroyed our wedding. She humiliated both our families in front of 300 people. And she was right to do it. The words came out flat, lifeless. I was going to marry you while planning to keep seeing Marcus. Emma saved you from wasting years on someone who doesn't deserve you. The admission hit the hallway like a physical blow. Even the security guards looked uncomfortable as David's face crumpled. So it's true? All of it? Rebecca nodded, unable to meet his eyes. I'm sorry, David. I'm so sorry. The police voices were getting closer, maybe one corridor away now. But something had shifted in the group dynamic. David looked broken rather than furious, and Mom was staring at Rebecca like she was seeing a stranger. How long? Mom asked quietly. How long have you been living this lie? 6 months, Rebecca whispered. Since I met Marcus at the yoga studio. I kept telling myself I'd end it before the wedding, but I couldn't choose. So you were going to choose both, Jake said, his voice hard. String David along while keeping your backup plan. My phone was buzzing again, but this time when I looked at the screen, I saw something that made my blood run cold. TMZ had somehow gotten hold of the story. The headline read, Wedding Disaster, Bride's Sister Exposes Cheating Scandal in Viral Audio. Viral. This wasn't just family drama anymore, we'd become internet entertainment. Mom, I said urgently, showing her the phone. It's already online. The news sites are picking it up. Mom read the headline and went pale. Oh God. Your father's going to see this. His work colleagues, the neighbors. The police radios were right outside the door now, and I could hear multiple officers coordinating their approach. But as they prepared to arrest me for destroying Rebecca's wedding, I realized something that made my stomach drop. This was just the beginning. The police officers who walked through that hotel corridor door weren't what I'd expected. Instead of the aggressive cops from TV shows, they looked tired and annoyed, like they'd been called away from real crimes to deal with rich people's wedding drama. Ma'am, the older officer addressed Rebecca, clearly assuming she was in charge since she was wearing the wedding dress. We got a call about criminal mischief and trespassing? Before Rebecca could answer, David's father appeared behind the cops, his face purple with rage. Officers, these people broke into private property and sabotaged a wedding that cost us over $100,000. I want them arrested immediately. The younger cop pulled out a notepad, glancing around at our little group with obvious confusion. Okay, so who exactly am I arresting and for what? Her, David's father pointed at me like I was a war criminal. She illegally accessed our sound system and broadcast private recordings to humiliate my son's bride. It's harassment, it's invasion of privacy, it's the truth, Rebecca said quietly. The cops looked at her. David's father looked at her. Everyone looked at her. The recording, Rebecca continued, her voice getting stronger. Everything on it was true. I was cheating on David. My sister just exposed it. Rebecca, what are you doing? Mom hissed. What I should have done months ago. Rebecca turned to the older cop. Officer, I don't want to press charges. This is a family matter that got out of hand. Like hell, it's just a family matter. David's father was practically vibrating with fury. This is destruction of property. The hotel sound system was damaged, the venue contract was breached, there were 200 guests who witnessed. 300, the younger cop corrected, reading from his phone. According to the videos already posted online. Ma'am, are you aware this incident is trending on Twitter? My stomach dropped through the floor. Trending? The cop showed us a screen, and I watched my worst nightmare unfold in real time. #wedding disaster was climbing the Twitter trending list, with dozens of videos from different angles showing the moment Rebecca's confession played through the speakers. Someone had even made it into a TikTok trend, with users adding dramatic music to the audio of Rebecca's voice saying David's sweet, but he's so predictable. Jesus Christ, Jake muttered, reading over my shoulder. There's already memes. He was right. Someone had turned Rebecca's confession into a meme format, David's sweet, but he's so predictable overlaid on pictures of boring boyfriends. Another one used her voice saying what we have is different, it's real over photos of people with obviously inappropriate crushes. This is a nightmare, Mom whispered, scrolling through her own phone. Emma, your father's been texting me. His coworkers are already sending him links. The older cop cleared his throat, clearly wanting to regain control of the situation. Look, folks, social media aside, I still need to determine if any actual crimes were committed here. They broke into restricted areas, the hotel manager said, producing what looked like security footage on a tablet. Used false pretenses to access service corridors, then illegally connected personal devices to our professional audio equipment. That's breaking and entering, David's father added. Plus whatever the legal term is for intentional infliction of emotional distress. I watched the cop make notes, adding up charges that would probably land me in jail for months. But then Rebecca stepped forward, and I saw something in her expression that I hadn't seen since we were kids, the same look she used to get when she was about to take the blame for something we'd both done. Officer, she said clearly, I gave my sister access to that room. She was helping me with a technical issue for the reception. Everyone stared at her. That was obviously a lie, but it was a lie that could save me from criminal charges. Rebecca, don't, I said quietly. No, Emma. I'm done making the wrong choices. She turned back to the cop. Any damage to hotel property is my responsibility. I'll pay for everything. David's father looked like he was about to have a stroke. You can't just, this isn't how. His phone rang, cutting him off mid-sentence. He glanced at the screen and his face went even redder. It's my mother, he said grimly. She's been getting calls from her church friends who saw the videos online. The cop's radio crackled, Unit 23, we're getting multiple calls about the wedding incident. Local news wants a statement. Local news. We'd graduated from social media gossip to actual journalism. This was about to get so much worse. The local news van pulled into the hotel parking lot just as the police were finishing their report. Through the lobby windows, I could see the reporter, a woman in a bright red blazer, setting up her camera with the hotel's elegant facade in the background. Ma'am, you might want to consider a back exit, the hotel manager said to Rebecca, but it was too late. Guests were streaming out the front entrance, and several had already spotted the news crew. Phones came out immediately, creating a second wave of recording as wedding attendees gave impromptu interviews about the most dramatic wedding disaster they'd ever witnessed. This is insane, Jake muttered, watching a group of David's college friends dramatically reenact the moment the recording started playing. They're treating this like entertainment. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing. The missed calls were now in the triple digits, and my social media notifications were maxed out. Someone had found my Instagram account and the comments were brutal. Listen to this, Mom said, reading from her phone with a voice like she was announcing a death. Channel 7's website already has an article up. Wedding sabotage scandal rocks local hotel, sister's revenge goes viral. She looked up at me with exhausted eyes. Emma, they interviewed 3 guests already. They're calling you unhinged and clearly mentally unstable. The police officer was wrapping up his report, but David's father wasn't done. What about intentional interference with a business contract? The hotel's going to sue us for breach of their event agreement. Actually, the hotel manager interjected, looking uncomfortable, given the current media attention, corporate is considering this beneficial publicity. The story's bringing a lot of traffic to our social media accounts. Beneficial publicity. They were going to profit from my family's destruction. Rebecca was sitting in one of the lobby chairs now, still in her wedding dress but looking like she'd given up entirely. David sat 3 chairs away, the space between them feeling like a canyon. Neither of them was speaking. The marriage license, David said suddenly, his voice hollow. We signed it during the ceremony, before. He looked at Rebecca like she was a stranger. Are we actually married right now? Rebecca's face crumpled. David, just answer the question. Are we legally married or not? The cop consulted his notepad. You'd need to check with the officiant about whether he filed the paperwork. Most wait until after the reception too. Father Mackenzie left right after the recording played, Mom said quietly. I saw him walking to his car 20 minutes ago. So the marriage might not even be legal. All of this destruction, and Rebecca and David might not technically be husband and wife. The absurdity would have been funny if it wasn't ruining so many lives. The reporter outside was now interviewing Aunt Carol, who was gesticulating wildly and clearly giving a detailed account of our family history. Every embarrassing moment, every piece of drama, would probably be on the 11 o'clock news. Emma, Rebecca said quietly, and something in her voice made everyone stop talking. I need you to know something. I braced myself for more accusations, more blame. The recording you played, she continued, it wasn't the worst thing I said to Marcus that day. The blood in my veins turned to ice. What do you mean? Rebecca met my eyes for the first time since this all started. After I told him about David being predictable, about our relationship being real. I told Marcus that I was planning to divorce David within 2 years. Once I had access to his trust fund. The silence that followed was deafening. The silence after Rebecca's confession was so complete I could hear the lobby's air conditioning humming. Even the police officer stopped writing in his notepad, staring at my sister like she'd just admitted to planning a murder. You were going to steal from me? David's voice was barely a whisper. My trust fund? Rebecca nodded, tears streaming down her face again. Marcus helped me research the divorce laws. In Illinois, after 2 years of marriage, I'd be entitled to half of everything, including inherited assets acquired during the marriage. David's father made a choking sound. That trust fund is 3 generations of family money. 7 figures. 7 figures. Rebecca hadn't just been cheating, she'd been running a long con that would have destroyed David financially and emotionally. The wedding, the perfect bride act, even her insistence on the expensive venue, it had all been an investment in her future payout. Oh my God, Mom whispered, sinking into one of the lobby chairs. Rebecca, what have you become? My phone buzzed with a call from a number I didn't recognize. When I declined it, another unknown number immediately called. Then another. Those are probably reporters, the hotel manager said grimly. Once the story breaks nationally, you'll want to change your number. All of you. Nationally. This local wedding disaster was about to become a cautionary tale across the entire country. I could already see the headlines, Sister Saves Groom from Gold Digger Bride's 7-figure scam. Ma'am, the younger cop addressed Rebecca, what you just described could constitute fraud. Entering into a marriage contract with intent to defraud is a felony. Rebecca's face went white. I changed my mind. I wasn't actually going to go through with it. When? David asked, his voice getting stronger now, anger replacing devastation. When exactly did you change your mind? Before or after you spent 6 months planning how to steal my inheritance? David, please. Answer the question, Rebecca. When did you decide not to rob me blind? The lobby had gotten very quiet, even the hotel staff pretending not to listen while obviously hanging on every word. This was better than any soap opera, and they had front row seats. I don't know, Rebecca whispered. Maybe I never really changed my mind. The cop started writing again, faster this time. Sir, you might want to contact a lawyer. Tonight. Through the lobby windows, I could see the news crew had multiplied. 3 vans now, with reporters from different stations setting up their shots. Someone had leaked the trust fund angle, probably one of David's relatives, because I could see $1 million wedding scam scrolling across a news ticker on someone's phone. My phone rang again. This time it was a local number I recognized, my manager from the diner. Emma? Jesus Christ, are you okay? You're all over the news. There's reporters calling the restaurant asking about you. My workplace. They'd tracked down where I worked, probably talked to my coworkers, maybe even customers. By tomorrow, I'd either be fired or so notorious that I couldn't show my face there. I have to go, I told my manager, hanging up before she could respond. Emma, Jake said quietly, we should leave. Now. Before this gets worse. But as I looked around the lobby, at Rebecca crying in her ruined wedding dress, at David staring into space like his whole world had collapsed, at Mom trying to field calls from relatives who'd seen us on social media, I realized something terrifying. This couldn't get worse. It could only get bigger. The news crews were setting up floodlights in the hotel parking lot when I finally understood what I'd really done. This wasn't about revenge anymore, or even justice. I'd turned my family into a cautionary tale that would follow us forever. We need to leave, Jake said urgently, watching more vans arrive. Through the service entrance, before they figure out who we are. But as we headed toward the back corridors, Rebecca called my name. Her voice was different now, not angry or devastated, just tired. Emma, wait. I turned to find her standing in the lobby, still in that $8,000 dress that now looked like a costume from a play that had ended badly. David sat slumped in a chair behind her, his father frantically making phone calls to lawyers. I need to ask you something, Rebecca said, walking closer. That recording, how long have you been carrying it around? 3 weeks. 3 weeks. She nodded slowly. You could have confronted me privately. Could have given me the chance to come clean before the wedding. She was right, and we both knew it. Would you have? Rebecca considered this, really considered it. Probably not. I was in too deep, too scared of disappointing everyone. She glanced back at David, then at our mother, who was still fielding calls from horrified relatives. I convinced myself I could make it work somehow. Keep everyone happy. By stealing from David and lying to everyone. Yeah. Her laugh was hollow. God, when you say it out loud, it sounds so much worse. The police officer was finishing his paperwork, but he kept glancing at his phone as more videos of the incident surfaced online. We'd become a trending topic, complete with commentary from strangers who thought they understood our family dynamics based on 30 seconds of audio. The thing is, Rebecca continued, I think I've been lying for so long I forgot what the truth even looked like. The perfect job, the perfect apartment, the perfect wedding, none of it felt real. It was all just performance. Through the windows, I could see Aunt Carol giving another interview, probably sharing every embarrassing story from her childhood. Our family's dirty laundry was about to be dissected by strangers across the internet. So what happens now? I asked. Rebecca looked at David, who was signing papers his father had produced from somewhere. Probably annulment documents, or at least the start of whatever legal process would untangle this mess. Now I figure out who I actually am when I'm not trying to impress anyone. She pulled off her wedding ring, a massive diamond that had cost more than my car, and handed it to David's father. I'll pay for everything. The hotel damages, the catering, the guests' travel expenses. It'll probably bankrupt me, but you'll finally be free, I finished. Yeah. She smiled for the first time all night, and for a second I could see my real sister again, not the perfect bride she'd been playing. Emma, what you did tonight was horrible and destructive and probably illegal. I braced myself for more accusations. But it was also the most honest thing anyone's done in my life for months. Jake squeezed my hand as the police officer approached with his final report. No charges would be filed, Rebecca's story about giving me access held up, and David's family was more interested in damage control than prosecution. As we finally walked toward the hotel's back exit, my phone buzzed one last time. A text from an unknown number, saw the videos online. You did the right thing. Marcus. Even Rebecca's affair partner thought I'd done the right thing. The service door opened onto a quiet alley, away from the cameras and chaos. For the first time in hours, I could breathe without feeling like I was performing for an audience. So, Jake said as we walked toward his car, that was either the worst decision or the best decision you've ever made. I thought about David, free now to find someone who actually loved him. About Rebecca, finally forced to confront the lies she'd built her life on. About our family, who would have to rebuild relationships based on truth instead of comfortable fiction. Ask me again in a year, I said. But honestly, I already knew the answer.